636 runs, a ludicrous amount of attempts on any Pokemon challenge. One would have to be insane to try a challenge that many times, and I'm not insane. I'm so sane. Everyone talks about how sane I am. Even the walls and the mirrors. Kaizo Ironmon is a challenge that will push you to your mental limits and make you ask, why am I not learning a valuable skill? Kaizo Ironmon begins as most Pokemon runs do, by choosing your starter. Now, the game is randomized, and that even includes the statistics of the Pokemon, but don't worry, your base stats will be the same. It's just the stats within that will be changed. So a Tyranitar will still have 600 base stats, but that same Tyranitar might have incredibly high speed and very low attack. So we select our starter, defeat our randomized enemy. What's a Buzzwole doing in this game? Well, I'm playing a Pokemon Emerald National Dex version that has every single Pokemon up to Generation 9 in the video game for us to use. The usual start of Pokemon Emerald ensues. You heal yourself up, you proceed upwards, you find May, you battle your rival, you realize your rival has a level 8 Pokemon because Kaizo Ironmon has a 60% level boost. You lose against your rival and you reset. Wait, is that supposed to happen? Choose your starter and oh, a Blissey. Very nice. Now, Pokemon like Blissey are very, very vital because as you can see, it has 540 base stat total, which is very important because the maximum that you're allowed to have must be below 600. And I've managed to roll a Blissey with pure power, which will double its attack, or at least it would if it wasn't illegal. Pure power is illegal on Pokemon over 420 base stat total. So what do? Well, once we beat our rival, we have to pivot. Now, pivoting in Kaizo Ironmon is when you swap out your Pokemon for another Pokemon, because here's another rule. You can only use one Pokemon. And if your one Pokemon faints, you restart the game. The goal to beat the entire game with just your one randomized Pokemon, with randomized moves, randomized stats, and a 60% level boost on your enemies. This is how ridiculous Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon is. But it's not too bad, because in Route 1, due to the randomization, we find ourselves on Mega Sharpedo. Thankfully, Mega Evolutions have been included in Pokemon Emerald's National Dex, so once we catch one, and let's just say, oh, just for the sake of argument, that we called it Ben Sharpedo. Since we have caught the Mega Sharpedo, we must pivot into it. We must use this Mega Sharpedo, so we hope that it has good stats. And we can see that its special attack seems to be quite high for a level 3, and its moveset, oh baby! It already starts with Crunch and Flamethrower, giving it a really good offensive move in Flamethrower, but also giving it a stab move in Crunch, enabling it to do way more damage. So now we're able to do what not many runs are able to do. We finally leave the first town and progress on our adventure. In Kaizo Ironmon, you are allowed to pivot once per route. If you pivot, then you can't go back, so whatever you capture is whatever you're taking. And the stats of the Pokemon that you're capturing could be terrible. There's no real way to tell. You could potentially scout movesets by wasting turns and seeing what moves they have, but really it's a roll of the dice every single time. We got very lucky grabbing Ben right at the start of the game with a stab move and such high special attack. Ben's ability is Marvel Scale, which will up its defense whenever it has a status ailment, which isn't the best in the world, but could come in handy in a pinch. And Ben's adventure finally begins, slaughtering the first few trainers in the first route, taking them out with absolutely no issues whatsoever. And Ben immediately learns Feint Attack. We have to replace Moonlight because in Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon, healing moves are banned. And in Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon, if you buy a potion, you're also breaking the rules. No potion purchasing allowed. The only potions or items you're allowed to use are the ones that you find on the ground. The hidden items. The ones that you wouldn't usually go for because you don't need to. In Kaizo Ironmon, they are your lifeline. Ben continues her onslaught, taking on every single trainer because in Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon, you're not allowed to battle wild Pokemon to gain experience. The only experience you can gain is from the enemy trainers, meaning that every single trainer in this game is vitally important because your one Pokemon needs to beat everything, the entire game. You never know what you're gonna go up against. And by the look of Ben's special defense, it's a little low. So Ben destroys her way around the forest. We start to pick up items, not getting anything of real value because you're not allowed to use held items unless they're a berry. Even that Miracle Seed I just picked up, even if I had a grass type move, I wouldn't be able to. But that Pecha Berry, Oh, that Pecha Berry is definitely going to come in handy. We can still keep the Blissey that we started with because we're going to need something to use the HM moves. But unfortunately, they're not allowed to battle for us. So we must waste a turn with the Pokeball and then consume the Blissey hole to knock it out. Thankfully, though, a 2 versus 1 is no problem for Ben Sharpedo, immediately getting a burn on the Flamigo and taking it out with no problems. And we enter the first Gym City, which we do have to worry about because in Kaizo Ironmon, when you enter a gym, you must battle every single trainer and you cannot leave until you win or you die. So Ben begins firing a torrent of flame at a Sylveon of a small child, easily dispatching the Fungus and the Azelf of another, and the Hikers Tornadus team also poses absolutely no issues, going down to just 1 crunch. So at level 24, we now begin the first gym battle with an enormous HP stat and Ben learning the Ice Beam move. Now, let me be clear. This does not happen very often. A moveset this good is not a very common thing. During the grinding session on the trainers outside of the town, we also managed to learn Luster Purge. So our moveset is ridiculous right now, having coverage on almost every type. Now, the true first challenge begins. Because in Kaizo Ironmon, every single boss has 6 Pokemon, and Ben stands alone, knocking out the Slakoth with a crunch. Doing the same to the Amask that comes out. Gargankle can't take a hit either. Ben is absolutely rinsing through this team already. And with Flamethrower, Grovyle is burnt to a crisp. Makuhita goes down to our newfound Luster Purge, and this is turning into a bit of a sweep. This is easy. Maybe Ben can do this. Maybe Ben can beat the entire game. Ben is strong. After 636 runs, would he actually have a Pokemon that could go the full distance? Well, it's only been 1 gym badge. It's a little bit early to tell right now. The TM that Roxanne gives us is Focus Punch. Now, this is incredibly important because the only TMs that we're allowed to use in Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon are the TMs that we get from gym leaders. Not that we really need a better move right now. I'm not going to be picky. I'm not going to be greedy. Our moveset is already looking fabulous. But we quickly rescue a flying rat, battle the many trainers above the routes that you probably haven't even battled before. How many people really came to this area? Grabbed all the valuable items that we could, like an Aspa Berry that'll defrost us if we get frozen, and sail on our merry way. We're already down to Dewford. Now, in the Kaizo Ironmon rules, we're not actually allowed to leave Dewford to go to Slateport like you usually can. We could go and train there and come back, but in these rule sets, you're not allowed to. You're trapped on Dewford until you defeat the second gym leader. So we dive into the cave, finding many a Pokemon and trying to pick up every single item that we can get before we're immediately thrust into yet another gym battle. Give Steven his letter, and just like that, it's time for the next gym already. Now, Dewford Town's gym is a little bit more scary. Like, literally, I'm scared of the dark. I can't see a thing in this place. What's going on? But there are also 5 trainers that you must defeat before you battle the gym leader. Fortunately, the first one has a blip bug, but the second has a reboot with Sandstream. Now, Sandstream is a bit annoying because it does damage over turn, unless you beat them immediately, in which case it does no damage. Then we encounter a Shuckle, which honestly is really good in Kaizo Ironmon. It has a pretty high base stat total and not a bad typing either. Of course, it's not nearly as strong as Ben, and just like that, the second gym badge is just waiting for us, 1 battle away. We have taken a bit of damage, but we do have a Citrus Berry equipped, which will restore 30 points of health if we really need it, assuming that Brawly can put up any kind of effort or battle against good old Ben, which the Pansage just immediately dies. A Klinklang then comes out with Intimidate, but it's fine because none of our moves are physical. It does use Outrage to hit our very low special defense, which we take a ton of damage from because we really can't take any special hits. And then Brawly brings out an Iron Jugulus, which is incredibly powerful. Now, thanks to the power of Ice Beam, I can immediately freeze it. Getting a little bit lucky. Who knows what this Jugulus could have done? Oh, I know what it could have done. It could have used Focus Punch. That's what it could have done, which would not have done a single thing. Brawly's a little bit too concerned about punching. Should be more concerned about not being completely frozen in a block of ice. Unbeatable fires off a massive low kick, showing that it's the actual threat to be scared of here. It's the same level as me as well. So not only are we fighting 6 Pokemon, we're fighting 6 Pokemon that are around about the same level as us. Thankfully, we're able to take it out, but that's leaving Ben on very low HP with 2 Pokemon left over, and an Iron Moth still left to fight. I panic and use one of the energy powders that I picked up to regain 50 points of health. A hail comes down, doing damage to both of us, leaving me down at just 83 points. Still technically above half, but not that great. We get hit with a Body Slam and luckily avoid getting paralyzed and fire back with a Luster Purge. Super effective effective damage, but not quite enough to take it out. Brawly manages to heal the Iron Moth, leaving it just enough health to not survive. And the final Pokemon, a Deerling, which just like Bambi... Wait, did Bambi die? Did Bambi die? Oh no, like just like Bambi's mum died, giving us the second gym badge and a very important TM. We really need these TMs to be good because it's not like we get very many of them. Our moveset is fantastic right now, but we're losing a lot of coverage on things that we really need. I would love to have a water type move of some kind, or maybe a Thunderbolt. Luster Purge is a good move, but it's not got very much PP. And in Kaizo Ironmon, PP is very important. I know, it sounds hilarious, but bear with me. When you go into dungeons, you need to beat every single trainer without running out. So if you have just 5 PP on a move, well, that's not very useful for a marathon event, is it? Anyway, the TM turned out to be Endeavor, which is useless, just like in the My Hero Academia universe. And we move on to Slateport, an area with many things for us. Like, for example, 6 soda pops that we are allowed to get from the soda pop man, and one additional one that I bought by accident and immediately threw away because I'll be cheating to keep that one. The 6 soda pops are not purchased. They're just given to you by the guy, so they're legal to have, thankfully, giving us a massive boost to the amount of healing items that we have at our disposal. The Team Aqua Grunts inside the museum actually give me a bit of a run for my money as it uses Dragon Rage, which lowers my health a ton. Still pretty strong, although our health is massive. And then one of the grunts just manages to have a Kyurem. Where did he get this from? Where are they getting these from? Does anyone know? Did the Amazon Prime that? And then the Kyurem unfortunately fires off a Dazzling Gleam, which does a massive amount of damage, while also being quite bulky on the special side, tanking the crunch I fired at it. For some reason, it goes for knockoff the second turn when it definitely could have killed me with a critical hit Dazzling Gleam and ended the run right there, but hey, I appreciate the grunts being massive idiots. Or maybe they just wanted to see Ben Sharpedo go further because it's a water type. The trainers in the route to the north provide very good experience, especially this Ice Cube that had Drought as its ability. It just seemed a bit counterintuitive to have that. Anyway, there was a Koraidon there. We managed to pick up a few items, none of which are very good, and then take on the most important part of this area. A part that you've probably forgotten about. A part that you probably don't go into very often. That's right, I'm talking about the Trick House, baby! Let's go! Yeah, you're allowed to go into the Trick House just once, which gives you a little bit of in terms of experience, because you can battle a few trainers in here, but the most important part of the Trick House is that when you finally complete the incredibly hard puzzle, which consists of finding this scroll, killing God, and then locating a door, you get given a free rare candy, one that's legal for the challenge and something you're not going to find very often. A rare candy is incredibly important. It's something you keep for the late game and something you don't pop until you get to the Elite Four, but that free level up is going to feel so good when you do. May challenges us to a second rival battle, or is it the third one? Anyway, she's showing off her incredible talent as her Beartic somehow has Flash Fire, which absorbs my Fire-type move completely, forcing me to use Crunch instead. And that Fairy Wind damage is kind of racking up a little bit. This rival battle always proves to be a pretty tough one, as she throws out a Zero Aura next with Hydro Pump and deals another massive amount of damage. Fortunately, it does go down in one hit, but the Tentacruel at the end sees it kill, and it is gonna go for it, charging up a Sky Attack. Unfortunately for Tentacruel, I have really, really good defense. I use one Soda Pop just because I'm a little scared I might get flinched, but that Sky Attack did 12 points of damage. Very disappointed for Tentacruel. So disappointing, in fact, it decides to go to sleep and then dies immediately. With that rival battle complete, we grind a bit more on the trainers outside of the city and on the trainers inside of the city. Wally, not exactly putting up a good fight, but trying his best, I suppose. And then we battle the trainers to the left of the city. There's a lot of those. And then we battle the trainers to the north of the city. And you're not going to believe what we did to the trainers right of the city. Oh, and there's more trainers to the south of the city. There's so many trainers around here. But once all the trainers were said and done, we were a respectable level 45 to take on the gym. We also had enough time to murder a family of 4. We started with the parents, then moved on to the kids. Even the grandma got involved. And then, before you knew it, it was time for yet another gym. This one has 5 trainers before the gym leader, and thankfully this one isn't as scary as Broly's gym. Since we have such a big level gap now, we're a little bit more comfortable. But of course they have Mega Evolutions, because why wouldn't they? I mean, it's only fair. If I'm allowed one, then they're allowed one too. There's nothing in the rules that says they can't... Wait, is there anything in the rules that says they can't do that? Oh, okay, never mind. We consume their Centrets, get to level 46, dismantle the rest of the trainers, and then it's gym time. Manager Marshall comes fully equipped with 6 Pokemon and leads with a Dreadnought at level 32. Honestly, my idea for this is just to click the crunch button until the crunch button doesn't work anymore, or maybe I can use the super effective button, but the crunch button seems to be doing pretty well for us so far, as Watson, for some reason, keeps sending in Pokemon weak to crunch, so I can just use the A button. Even a cross chop, which is super effective, doesn't do much damage because of my absolutely gargantuan defense. So even the Mega Evolutions begin to take damage. Camerupt tries to lock on, although I'm not really sure what they're locking on. Maybe a Predator Missile, maybe an Ember. No, it's actually a Super Fang that does over half my health and damage. Just kidding, it does exactly half. That's what the move does. It does half your health and damage all the time, or every single time. The Camerupt goes down, but there's still a lot of Pokemon left, and I'm pretty injured. Thankfully, though, we faced off with an Arbok, which I still have Luster Purge, super effective move against, which immediately takes that one down. And the last Pokemon, oh, it's only a Koraidon. Oh, thank God. I was thinking it would be something scary. So we do pop a Soda Pop and get hit with a Crush Claw right off the bat, which is a critical hit and a defense drop. Not looking too good. It also outspeeds us, dropping my defense stat again as we fire back with an Ice Beam. It leaves it very low on health, but it still outspeeds me, and I have -2 defense. Now I ponder. I make the decision. Should I use another healing item, or should I just go for the attack, assuming that I can live? I should be able to survive, but another critical hit could do me in. Eventually, I make the decision to fire off the Ice Beam as Watson uses his final Super Potion for some reason, and then Koraidon goes down. A massive throw from Watson, and a massive success for us. The TM turns out to be Solar Beam, which, while strong, is completely useless. If I had the ability Droughts to make the sun come on every single battle, that'd be great. But in this situation, it's just not very useful. Ben continues to consume the souls of the lowly Pokemon in front of it, gathering more and more experience, more and more power so they can survive the trials ahead. And being able to get the 3rd gym badge puts Ben in the top 0.01% of all of the runs that I've done. 636 runs, and most of them don't even make it past the first gym. I know you must be thinking at this point, why would anyone do this challenge? This sounds completely crazy. This doesn't sound fun, but there's a strangely addicting quality to Kaizo Ironmon that even though you know, a lot of it is just based on luck. A lot of it is just based on, will you be able to get a good Pokemon with a good moveset? It's strangely addicting. It's almost like a claw-grabbing machine, where you know it's kind of rigged against you, but you still want to do it anyway. It's like gambling, except you don't lose anything except your life and sanity. I like to imagine Pokemon Kaizo Ironmon as a luck simulator crossed with a resource management game. Since the only items that you can ever use are the ones that you pick up off the ground, yes, you have to be lucky to get good items. This is my cat, Leo, by the way. He's very sweet. But you also have to be able to use them correctly. You have to be able to use the moves at the correct time. It's a skill set that isn't really important in most Pokemon challenges, but this one is so different and so unique. It's very fun to do, and also very fun to watch. But even Mega Rayquazas can't stand up against Ben Sharpedo as she slays her way over to Falaba Town and enters Meteor Falls after a few more level ups. The next boss, Maxie, lies within another dungeon. The volcanic mountain of Mount Chimney is a place that you're not allowed to leave for healing or any reason until you defeat it. Now, there's only a few grunts you have to fight before Maxie, but it can still leave you in a sticky situation if you forget for some reason, which I would never do that. Maxie stands at the edge of a volcano, channeling the magmic power into it, challenging me to a fight, not realizing that I have Ben Sharpedo on my side. Maxie leads with a Poliwrath, which is blasted by a Luster Purge. Poliwrath's synapses snapping inside of its brain as its little swirly stomach gets chomped on by Ben's crunch. It falls. And then a Staraptor enters the arena. It tries to bulk itself up, make it look all tough and strong, but no, it immediately goes, oh no, it doesn't. Wow, it tanked that? Jeez, that's really impressive. And hits me with a Volt Tackle? God, when did this happen? Thankfully, the recoil was enough to take it out. And then another bird lands. Or I guess it didn't really land because it's still flying, but oh, it's dead now. Next, Pawmot, which technically, both of its stab moves are super effective against me, but I thankfully still have Luster Purge on deck. The Flamethrower Butterfree. Not really much to say about that. And then Maxie's final Pokemon, Aggron, goes down to a crunch. Fortunately, afterwards, the trip down to the next town was relatively safe, with the enemies only having weak Pokemon like Gargankel and Kyurem Black. And also another cool little tidbit, once you arrive at Lava Ridge Town, you're then able to go back up to the mountain to fight some additional trainers for that all-important experience. So once we clean all of them up, and they are very excited to be here, I got that fire in me, baby! And then at level 56, it's already time for gym number 4. Now, unfortunately, gym number 4 has more trainers than people that came to my 11th birthday party. So we have to blitz through Pokemon after Pokemon, just hoping things go right. But it is a good source of experience, which we will need because the gym leader levels catch up on you very quickly. I also don't know how to navigate, apparently, and I get really lost. And activate a double battle by accident. But it's okay, it's nothing that the partnership of Ben and the Blissey can't handle. I decide not to knock out my own Blissey because while knocking out my own Blissey is technically the better option in terms of getting experience, because then the Blissey's gonna take the experience or half the experience I would have gotten and steal. Look at those levels up. You don't deserve those, Blissey. It is riskier because I have to take a turn to attack my own Pokemon, which leaves 2 enemies that could potentially do some damage to me. We do get hit with a Nightshade, which does bring us down a tiny bit, but the rest of the gym is relatively safe and we fight Flannery. Flannery immediately unleashes her full potential by sending out Spidops, which absolutely tanks it. No, it didn't. Of course it didn't tank a flamethrower. Mudsdale goes down to an Ice Beam. Octillery gets hit with a Crunch and mysteriously tanks it, firing back with a low kick and doing a good amount of damage. Wasting Flannery's Hyper Potion, though, and getting smacked with a crit. The Ultra Beast is unleashed. One that's actually faster than me and hits me with a Crunch. Something that is non-stab and resisted, still does a lot of health and damage. Now facing off against a Flygon, I'm a little worried because my speed is not that great, and we're getting a little bit low on health. The Flygon, of course, goes for a double team and then immediately fumbles the bag by being smacked by an Ice Beam. And the last Pokemon, I bet you forgot this one existed. Unless you really, really liked Arven's storyline in Scarlet and Violet. But Mabostiff is no slouch, so I decide to use a Soda Pop and it sets up a sunny day for some reason, which all that does is make my flamethrower more powerful. So thanks. Just a sad dog, I suppose. It fires back with a Crunch, though, doing less damage than the Gonadal did. And I feel like an absolute horrible person as I just torch this Mabostiff over and over again, landing a critical hit to take it out and claiming the gym badge, as well as the Constrict TM, because I know you were curious and it's just not useful. But speaking of useful things, it's about time we go to gather up all the items in the desert. Wow, a Carbos. I definitely can't use that anymore, although you can use vitamins. Once you hit the EV cap, they don't do anything. So we do some battles, accidentally enter a double battle, get poisoned, have a Pechaberry cure the poison, which wastes an item, almost die to a Samurott using Hydro Cannon, do some Duolingo, and once we finally gathered up everything from the sand streaming desert, we're able to leave because there's another boss battle all lined up and waiting for us. That's right, it's already time to kill my dad. The dead Pete father in this game has decided to give a separate room to every gym trainer that he has, rather than, oh, I don't know, having more than one bedroom in your family's home. But these gym trainers are no slouches. They have Hisuian Gudras and even rats. Thankfully, though, they are mostly handled without issue, and then manager Jill begins his onslaught. Leading with a dog trio, Ben manages to outspeed and smash it with Ice Beam, crumbling it to bits instantaneously. Then a Drapion enters the arena. Drapion actually being a very good Pokemon. It has very few weaknesses, and it usually has good defenses. But with these randomized stats, it does not. Then my Ben Sharpedo eats the local cat, and he unleashes his true ace, a Cricketune, which tanks a flamethrower. No, of course, it's a freaking Cricketune, man. Galarian Rapidash does have a fantastic typing and also a lot of bulk behind it. Unfortunately, not enough to tank more than 2 crunches. And then the Mega Evolution lands, but it's only a Mega Glalie, which can be instantly roasted and toasted by flamethrower as well. 5 gym badges. We're doing pretty well. Things are going very positively. And an incredible thing happens at the end of this gym. See, I was gifted TM42, which was randomized to Octazooka. A fantastic stab move, something that would be absolutely incredible. With a 15% chance to miss, it would take advantage of our massive special attack stat and finally give us the water-type move that we have been searching for. Finally, after all this time, we have double stab and everything is... Oh, he can't learn it. Ben, why can't you learn it? Ben can't learn Octazooka. It's usually Facade, and I thought that Ben could learn Facade usually, but I suppose not. And a funny part about the Kaizo Ironmon rules that I'm using, the Kaizo Ironmon Plus rules, is that TM compatibility is supposed to be set to full, which means every Pokemon should be able to learn every TM. I guess my dumbass used the wrong settings. Hey! So Ben and Octazooka, unfortunately, are not compatible, depriving me of the one stab water type move that I potentially could have used. But look on the bright side, a 15% chance to miss is basically a 50% chance. Oh, we put the loss of Octazooka behind us. Since we're already also not allowed to use Surf either on our main Pokemon, I can't teach Ben Sharpedo Surf, which means I have to surf around on the inflatable toy that is my Blissey. We begin the long trek up to the Weather Institute, a trek in which countless souls are lost by Flame and Luster Purge and Ice Beam and then just eating them whole. The Weather Institute is another one of those dungeons that you can't heal in or leave until you battled everyone. You're not even allowed to use the beds in the Weather Institute until you've cleared all the Team Aqua Grunts and Adamants out. Thankfully, though, Ben Sharpedo now has 316 at HP. That's, oh, wow. And somehow manages to avoid taking a single point of damage in the entire Weather Institute and getting up to level 68. I've had some people ask, are there not level caps in Kaizo Ironmon? You have one Pokemon in your entire run. And while some people may say, oh, but I can sweep the entire game with just my one guy, with the stats being randomized, having such low special defense, and having to go through gauntlets of trainers without being able to heal outside of battle, because that's a rule too, by the way, unless you go to a Pokemon Center or another healing spot, while also having to deal with the limited resources and the fact that if you get critted once, then you are dead. If you get Destiny Bonded, you're done. You restart the entire video game. There's a reason why most people can't beat Kaizo Ironmon runs in less than 500 attempts. There's no level cap in Kaizo Ironmon because it constantly feels like you're not ready for whatever you're going to do next. That no matter how high that level number might seem to get, you're always just one super effective move from a really strong Pokemon away from heading back to the lab again. Arriving into Fortree Town, we immediately leave to battle the 792 trainers that are just scattered around the outskirts of the city, gathering up some items and consuming the souls of everyone we come across, which leads us to a very solid and respectable level 73 as we enter the 6th gym. There's a fair amount of trainers in Fortree Gym, but being level 73, level 74 is a massive help against them. Eventually, I solved the puzzle with my massive brain cells, and the 6th gym battle begins. This should be one of the easier ones due to the fact that we have such a massive level gap, and oh, that's a Zacian. It's a Zacian with drought, which makes it really easy to flamethrower. A little bit counterintuitive, I believe. Then another legendary joins the fray, lasts in approximately 3.5 seconds before being obliterated and frozen, encased in ice. Swalot is blasted by a Luster Purge, and Lopunny is consumed in one bite. Oh no, it lived. Oh no, it used Patterrz Song! Alright, so now would be a good time to explain how Patterrz Song works. In Kaizo Ironmon Plus, there was a new rule added that allowed you to switch out into your partner Pokemon or your HM Pokemon only if somebody uses Patterrz Song to basically stop a Pokemon using Patterrz Song at the start of a battle and instantly making you lose. Unfortunately, the Lopunny did use a Hyper Potion. Now, the Lopunny's Perish count is still quite low. In fact, it's 1 now. But, of course, the AI decides to switch it out into Kricketune, which is immediately roasted by a flamethrower. Then, the Lopunny comes back in, Winona still having a Pokemon in the back that she could switch out to. So I hope and I pray that Flamethrower does enough damage to kill it, and it just manages to live, allowing it to Perish Song again. Thankfully, our HM friend was not knocked out during the switch before, and of course, Winona goes for another potion. I'm allowed to switch out on Perish Song as long as I immediately swap back into my running Pokemon. But, of course, they decide to switch out again, because why wouldn't you? So now we're stuck in this dance of Perish Song switch, which could have ended my run at any moment. If my Blissey had been attacked on my switch in, I would have died. But one final flamethrower is just enough to take out the Lopunny, ending a quite stressful 6th gym badge. And as a reward for our great efforts in that battle, we received TM40, which is Spark. Now, an electric type move is something that I was really needing on my team quite a bit, or my moveset. It has 65 base power, which is about 5 less than Luster Purge, but it has 20 PP, which means I can use it so many more times before I have to use an Ether or go back to heal at a Pokemon Center. Now, I was umming and ahhing over this for the longest time. Do I want to teach Spark to Ben Sharpedo? Is it worth getting rid of Luster Purge? We would lose coverage on poison types, but we would gain coverage on water types. Now, water types are actually the most common type in the game. So I eventually decided to take Spark, increasing our maximum PP quite a lot, giving us that all-important coverage on water types, but in exchange, we do lose coverage on fighting types and poison types. Kaizo Ironmon is all about choices and making the right ones, and I hope that was the right one. Next up, we head into Mount Pyre to Grave Rob. Like, I literally stole Ash from a gravestone. It's at this point where I go back and forth in my own head on whether or not I'm the good guy or not anymore. I have a lovely conversation with this elderly couple. You know, the old people, they really have a good perspective on the world. And then I attempt to clear out the rest of Mount Pyre because the indoor part of Mount Pyre also counts as a dungeon as well as the outdoor part. So once we've done the outdoor part, we can go and fight every single person on the indoor part. And there is a lot of trainers. A ludicrous amount of trainers. But it's worth it because there's many items that you can grab, many potential chances for potions that you could see. Although we're not allowed to use the TMs. Again, the only potions that we'll ever get in the game are the ones that we find on the randomized items on the floor. Every single item could be a full restore or a rare candy, something really good. But most of them are Thunderstones. For some reason, in this playthrough, I found 6 black belts. I don't know why. After that's all sorted, I bunny hop my way into a criminal organization's base, and Ben Sharpedo makes short work of Team Magma. Maxie with his 6 Pokemon, however, are quite high leveled now, almost level 60. They're catching up very quickly. I can't manage to one-shot a Stoutland. Even a Lipard manages to tank a hit and hit me with a Sludge Bomb, which poison in Kaizo Ironmon is very, very scary, since you can only heal status ailments in battle, and poison does overworld damage that in Pokemon Emerald will kill you if you hit 0 health. Not like the other generations where it just fades away, you just die. Poison is just about the worst thing that can happen to you. Even worse than freeze, because it can put you in an impossible situation where you 100% die unless you have something that can heal poison. But Maxie is taken down, and the Team Aqua base receives similar punishments. I bet you're wondering what the Master Ball got replaced with in this randomizer. Well, don't wonder anymore, it was a black belt, baby. Then it opens a massive plot of water that is humongous, ludicrously big, with so many trainers and items to be found. It's the perfect opportunity to grind up some levels before we have to take on one of the scariest gym battles in Pokemon history, which is, of course, Tate and Liza. Fortunately, I can take on the gym trainers in the gym one-on-one, and at level 84, I'm feeling pretty good about this, but there's a specific reason why I'm so afraid for this gym battle. In an alternate universe, in another timeline, we had managed to get this far with a Dusk Noir named Grim. This might be the end of Grim. Here we go. Okay, a Drapion and a Dugong. Drapion we have Boomerang for. We're just gonna go for the Boomerang. No! No, you're fucking kidding me! That's it, we lost. I'm dead this turn. Well, that's it. All it took was one siren song. All it took was one dugong. This time I was determined to make sure that didn't happen again. So I pet my Subnoodle and we start the fight against Emma and May. Now, I specifically planned for this battle by bringing 2 of my HM assistants, meaning that if one Pokemon does use Patterrz Song, that I have something in the back to switch out to. Now, obviously, a Stunfisk and a Hoopa Unbound, it's a little bit easy to see what the real threat in this situation is. So I go for a Swift Tackle onto the Hoopa Unbound, and that health bar goes down really slowly, but it is one-shotted. Lizzie does start to steal my experience points, but I think, honestly, being a bodyguard for Ben in this situation is worth it. Glimora hits the field, and Stunfisk hits Blissey, taking it out, which means I don't have a switch out for Patterrz Song anymore, but a Crunch is able to easily annihilate the Glimora. Then an Enamorus slams its big, stupid turtle base. What is that? What is Enamorus? Anyway, comes into the field. Stunfisk takes out the Beautifly, the second HM assistant that I'm allowed to have because there's so many HM moves in this game. Then blitzes Enamorus with another Ice Beam, which annihilates it. And since Stunfisk is just sitting there with Tackle, I decide that it's a better idea not to attack the Stunfisk and focus down the Pokemon that could actually do damage. Look, it just gave me presents. Truly a kind Stunfisk. As its allies start to fall around it, all that's left is an Amoonguss that fires off a Screech, we get hit with a present, which crits and does a lot more damage than I expected it to. Thankfully, though, the Amoonguss goes down to an Ice Beam, and there's just Stunfisk left, which promptly falls to one final Ice Beam, giving us the second gym badge. And TM04, which is the TM for smelling salts, which is not very useful. But now we enter the space station for a little bit of space madness. We team up with Steven for yet another double battle already, alongside Steven's Altaria Castform and Alcremie. Truly a terrifying group. The Maxi shows that they don't really need to do their whole plan because they already have a Groudon that is immediately hammered by a Psychic from Altaria. Steven actually managed to kind of hold his own in this fight. Usually in double battles, the AI are completely useless, but this time they did a pretty good job. I mean, just look at the damage on the Arcanine. Wow, Altaria, very impressive. We defeat that group, grab the HM for dive, and the world opens up to us, allowing us access to so many more areas, allowing us access to so many more items. So I scour the underwater murky depths of the Hoenn region, finding blue flutes, Soothe Bells, and the underwater city of Ravage. We managed to grind on a few more trainers, some of the last available in the region. At this point, we're at level 86, and we've almost defeated every single trainer that exists in Hoenn. No stone is left unturned as we thoroughly dismantle Team Aqua in the underground cavern, Archie included. And with Groudon and Kyogre released, it's time to do the story. A little geological collapse here, a little cave of origin there, meeting up with my bestie to let him know with the drama that's going on. And there we go, the story's done. And with that, there's only one more gym before the Elite Four. One's gym requires you to fight every single trainer, of which I believe there's about 10. And with level 64s, they're not exactly a pushover either. Apart from this Chatot, which was absolutely a pushover. But we must fight every single one of them before the gym leader. It's the rules. But all of them combined only managed to do about 40 points of damage. Now the battle with the final gym leader begins. I pet my noodle for luck as usual. And a Cloth enters the arena. Ben latches onto Cloth with his massive jaws, immediately cracking open the shell and taking it out. And a Heatmor lands, and Ben tries the same method again, latching onto it with its massive raging jawline, taking out the Heatmor as well. Gastrodon receives the exact same fate, with Crunch doing so much damage. It does manage to live just one attack, and for some reason one feels it necessary to heal the Gastrodon, like it's gonna do something later on. Vileplume enters the fray and is immediately fried by a flamethrower, leaving just a Braviary and one more Pokemon left after that. Braviary, being weak to Crunch, goes down in one hit, and Avalugg is the only Pokemon left remaining. We try a Crunch to see if it'll go down, which it does not, but it attempts a skill swap, giving me, I don't know, it doesn't even let you check in the game, so I guess I could have had huge power at this moment and technically been cheating, but with no real way to find out, I guess it's Schrodinger's cheat. And with that, the final gym badge is obtained. Now that we have every single gym badge, we have everything that we need to take on the Elite Four. We have a quick detour first to Meteor Falls to pick up a couple of items and do a couple of battles before we enter the Victory Road. And now the final stretch begins. Victory Road is actually one of the hardest places in the game, since you have to get through the entire place in one run. You're not allowed to leave to heal. And of course, Victory Road begins with a battle against Wally, a man with 6 Pokemon, which was a little scary for a bit because they're all level 70, but Ben manages to clear through them very easily. And now the real marathon begins, as I attempt to pick up every single item that I can get, making sure I have enough healing items to survive the gauntlet that is going to be the Elite Four. I completely forget how to do strength puzzles, failing over and over. These trials made for children. But battle after battle ensues, and Gengar lands a massive thunder, fortunately not paralyzing us, but its flame body does burn us, which is pretty bad, especially when you have to fight a Kyurem next. Now, knowing this Kyurem does have superpower leaves me a little bit worried. I also know this Kyurem has high special defense due to battles I've had with it in the past. So we cure that burn, and then it uses Torment, meaning I can't use the same move twice in a row, which is very, very awkward due to the fact that I really need to crunch you right now. But thanks to a slick special defense drop, the second Ice Beam is enough to take it out. Another problem in Victory Road is the lack of PP. See, you're fighting so many Pokemon and you only have so much PP since you can't go back and heal. This is the real resource management of Kaizo Ironmon. You have to preserve what moves that you might need going forward. You have to think about what high PP moves that you might use earlier on, despite the fact that they are lower in power and might not be able to get the kill. You may have to use some of the few elixirs or ethers that you found in your journey across the region, knowing that you'll probably still need those later on as well. Also, the Smeargle has Needle Arm, which is just really annoying. And after battle, I start to get whittled down slowly but surely by all the Pokemon that I'm facing off with, and then not so slowly by a Keldeo with Fairy Wind dealing massive amounts of damage due to my, let's be honest, quite pathetic special defense stat, leaving me on just a quarter of my health left. I have to decide, is it worth it to use more healing items, or should I just run now? Well, I decide to use some milk because it's probably sour by now. We gather up every single item that we can, even leftovers, which in normal circumstances would be fantastic, but it's banned in Kaizo Ironmon, so I'm not allowed to use it. So we mainly just used up a load of healing items to get items that we don't really need. But fortunately enough, battered and bruised, we leave the victory road with only one challenge left in front of us. So we take a moment to organize our items, prepare ourselves for what lies ahead, throw away some deep sea scales and the leftovers I just picked up because they're completely unusable. And at level 91, we take a deep breath and begin the final challenge of Kaizo Ironmon. Run 636. 636 runs in order to get to this point. And our first challenger leads with a Rabombi that is immediately fried by a flamethrower. A fantastic start. Then Sydney throws out a Mega Kangaskhan, showing them that family is actually stronger together. It tanks a crunch that I sent towards it. So I fire back with a Spark, trying to get it low enough to where he won't heal. Unfortunately, we didn't get in the healing range, be able to knock it out with another crunch. Then a Venusaur lands on the battlefield and is fried by a flamethrower. Zarina hits the field next and unfortunately hits me with a poison gas, which, as we know, is very bad because I'm going to guarantee damage from the poison gas, and I don't have anything to heal myself with apart from the items that I've accumulated over my journey, which is severely limited. We take a moment to decide whether or not using a healing item, a status healing item right now is a good idea. I decide to knock out the Zarina first because it had higher speed than I did, and it could just poison me the next turn if I use the status healing item. We take a lot of damage from the poison and then use a lava cookie to heal the status. And since the Abomasnow is doing very little damage to us, I decided it would be a good idea to do a little tacticizing, a little bit of a smart play. We're using a lot of our smaller healing items in order to get us up to at least a decent enough point. But this backfires as the white herb that I had attached to Ben is used up immediately after a smoke screen. White herb is a very valuable item in Kaizo Ironmon because lowering your stats, especially things like accuracy or speed or your special attack or attacking stats, depending on which one you're using, can be hugely detrimental because you really need to be able to one-shot most Pokemon. If you can't one-shot most Pokemon, you're not going to make it very far, never mind to the Elite Four. But with my white herb used up, we've defeated the first Elite Four member. I attach an Asper Berry to Ben Sharpedo just in case of a freak freeze out of nowhere and begin battle number 2. The Miltank sets up a drought, which is great news for me because my flamethrower is massively buffed in power thanks to that. So I quite happily fry the Miltank with a flamethrower, destroy the Stunfisk with an Ice Beam, but then a problem occurs. This Galarian Rapidash, a big issue. You can see this thing has massive special defense. It does fortunately get burned, but it hits me with a Rock Tomb, reducing my speed. Now, speed is very important in Kaizo Ironmon because if you go last every turn, then you're just gonna take way too much damage. It's not viable, so I consider my options here. Fortunately, throughout my adventure, I've been able to pick up some X items. Now, X items will boost your stat depending on which item it is, and X items are technically legal. I make a massive blunder here by going for Spark, not knocking out the Rapidash when I had the opportunity. It does go down to the burn, but not before it manages to drop my speed just one more time, enabling the Darkspawn to put me to sleep. It tries to build up a Focus Punch, and since I'm asleep, it's allowed to use Focus Punch. I've never seen anyone use Focus Punch before. It tries to set up another Focus Punch, but fortunately enough, I do wake up that turn and critical hit it with a flamethrower. We get smacked with a Razor Leaf from Chestnut, dealing a massive amount of damage because my speed is dropped, but we are also able to roast the nuts. And then Tinkaton being the last Pokemon in the arena, I make the decision to heal ourselves up with a Hyper Potion as it goes for a substitute. Obviously, this isn't ideal. The only move I really have that's good against this Tinkaton is Flamethrower, and if it continues to use substitute, it's going to outspeed me, but I rack up some PP by using an Elixir, and we start to take many Dragon Claws, one actually being a crit. We break the sub with a Flamethrower and decide that this is a good opportunity for yet another Hyper Potion. We get Dragon Clawed again, no critical hit thankfully, and deciding not to substitute one more time, we smack it with a Flamethrower, completely melting its big stupid hammer, hit level 92, and defeat the second Elite Four member with just half our health remaining. Now obviously that means that at the start of the third battle, we really need to heal. Unfortunately, it's a Tornadus. Fortunately enough though, it's got droughts. I don't know what it is about the Elite Four and having drought Pokemon, but I'll take it. It goes for a minimize, boosting its evasiveness. But it wasn't small enough as we're able to fire off an Ice Beam and take it out in one hit. Next, an Arcanine enters the arena, and fortunately enough, we have seen from the Altaria that knocked out the Arcanine in one hit before, it's very low special defense, so we can one-shot it. Ravieri gets iced by an Ice Beam, managing to hang on just barely, but that's nothing a Spark can't handle. A Meloetta enters the arena, which is a little bit concerning. It does have Fake Out and does a nice solid chunk of damage with it. I try to fry it with a flamethrower and it tanks the flamethrower. And this is where things get scary. It starts sludge bombing me, which means it can poison me anytime, which would reduce my health massively. It hits me with the second sludge bomb, and unfortunately, it does get the poison. And it also full restores. With its massive special defense stat, even flamethrower in the sun is doing very little damage. I can't crunch it because it resists crunch in its fighting type form. And now I'm also poisoned, so we have to pop one of our 3 full restores. Fortunately, we hit it with a critical hit on another flamethrower. It isn't able to poison us again, and we are safe for now. Oh, just kidding, there's a Zygarde there. Fortunately enough, though, Ice Beam is quite effective on Zygarde. And then Glacier's final Pokemon is an Aromatisse, which thankfully isn't very bulky. Only 2 battles left. Only 2 battles remain in the challenge. Only an old sailor and a flamboyant younger man. Let's see what Lady Landon has. Leading with a Blastoise, Lady Landon doesn't want to start off with any kind of ease whatsoever. It charges up a Skull Bash as I smack it with a Spark, doing just about half damage, with the second Spark just not managing to kill. Unfortunately, it does switch out in this moment into an Ursaluna that I then hit with an Ice Beam, fortunately knocking it out in one hit after it critical hits. Then Weirdeer lands, which is actually a Psychic type, leaving it weak to Crunch. Not that weak, apparently. As it lives, it hits back with a Sacred Fire, burning us with a massive amount of overturn damage. So now I had to decide, do I full restore or not? I decide to go for the attack this turn, meaning I take another turn and burn damage, and then we use full restore number 2. The only offensive capability this Kangaskhan has is Water Gun, but still insulted by the fact that it's spitting in my face over and over again. We decide to consume it and its child whole with a critical hit. Blastoise is back and fully healed thanks to a full restore, but I just decide to keep hitting it with Sparks. It's not like it's doing much damage with its barrage anyway. And for some reason, Drake is really attached to this Blastoise. It really just does not want to let it die. Fortunately, a critical hit is just enough to take it down to about 1 HP. The final Pokemon this last Elite Four member has is a Ledian, which is immediately... Wait, this thing lived a flamethrower? Are you serious? How did it even do that? Oh, well, it's dead now. It's fine. And with that Elite Four member taken down, just 1 battle remains between Ben Sharpedo and ultimate victory. We steel ourselves, go over the plan to use X items as soon as we enter the battle. An X speed and an X special will hopefully allow us to sweep the entire team. If we can get in a good situation, if the first Pokemon doesn't do massive amounts of damage, then we could end this run right here with a massive victory. We have good amounts of PP, and I'm feeling confident as we enter the final battle. The fray begins. We see a Belly Bolt, and I immediately begin to execute my strategy. The first item I use, an X speed to boost up my speed. It fires back with a Stun Spore, but we can cure that, so I'm not too concerned just yet. We use an X special to boost up my special attack, and unfortunately, the Belly Bolt uses Torment, which is one of the worst moves it could. Until I switch out, I cannot use the same move twice in a row. So essentially, for the entire battle, I need to switch my move every single attack. I've used one of our few remaining healing items to get rid of the status on Ben Sharpedo, and since the Belly Bolt had just gone for Hyper Beam, I used the recharge turn to heal myself back up to full, thinking that I should be able to one-shot it now that I'm +1 special attack and +1 speed. Unfortunately, Belly Bolt is really bulky, and it manages to paralyze me again, and I'm rapidly running out of ways to cure this. I use my final full heal to get rid of the paralysis, and Belly Bolt heals right back up to full, but thankfully, we had a special defense drop on that Crunch. We can't use Crunch again, but the Flamethrower just misses the kill. If we had been able to use Crunch there, we would have knocked it out. It would have done more damage. And now, down to just Lava Cookies left to restore our status. We use one of our final cookies, and it goes to sleep. Are you serious, Belly Bolt? What are you... It goes to sleep. The Belly Bolt has a horrific nightmare of being consumed by a shark. It wasn't during the dream. It really happened. And now the true battle can finally begin. A Shuckle lands, but since I had just used Crunch, I was forced to use Flamethrower this turn, hoping that I could do enough damage to kill. We do get a critical hit, which is incredibly lucky. And Reuniclus lands that I have to use Crunch on because I can't really do much else to it. But again, next turn, I'm locked out of Crunch again. My hardest hitting move is one that I can only use very very rarely now. I tried to Ice Beam the Persian, just thinking that maybe I could get a freeze if it survived, but I don't. It hits me with a Shockwave, which deals a solid chunk of damage and restores its health due to the Citrus Berry. Then I hope that a Flamethrower is enough to take it out, and it is. 2 Pokemon left remaining. 1 a Scolipede, but I can't use Flamethrower because I just used that. So I cross my fingers and hope that a Crunch is enough to take it out, which it just is. 1 Pokemon remains. The final Pokemon, a Luxray, stands across the battlefield from us, staring us down. It's Natural Predator. This thing is naturally super effective against me, and I can't use my most powerful move. So Ben Sharpedo unleashes a massive Ice Beam, just not able to knock it out. But for some reason, it converts. I don't really know why. And a Flamethrower takes out the Luxray. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Flamethrower. It's done! That is the champion battle! Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Sharpedo is a champion no matter what anyone says. Sometimes it's just that easy. Ben Sharpedo was a champion. Ben Sharpedo had done it. Ben Sharpedo had become a champion. Ben Sharpedo had defeated every run that had come before it. 636 attempts. But we had finally made it to the Hall of Fame. We had finally done it. We had finally become Kaizo Ironmon champions. Or that's probably what you thought, right? That's probably what you thought this entire time. That the Elite Four would be the end, that the champion would be the end, that this was all done, that we had become champions, that we had won the challenge. You probably thought that was it. You probably thought it was over. Well, I'm sorry. I lied to you. The challenge isn't done yet. There's one more challenge left before Ben Sharpedo can be crowned the victor. One more fight that needs to be done. In order to win the Pokemon Emerald version of Kaizo Ironmon, you must not just beat the champion, you must beat the champion. So with my palms sweaty, my arms shaking, my voice quivering, the nerves creeping up my back, I proceeded through Meteor Falls to face off with our final challenge. The strongest trainer in Hoenn. We needed to defeat Steven. And with basically no healing items left, we pet our Subnoodle one final time and began the final battle. The true final battle of Kaizo Ironmon. Steven is the strongest opponent you will face in the game. His entire team is level 100, and there is no opportunity for you to get to level 100 unless you get very, very lucky with rare candies. So I use 1x speed to boost my speeds and try to use the same tactic that I used against the champion. It had worked there. It should work here as well. Unfortunately, we get hit with an Octazooka. The very move that I wanted to use and was denied at the 5th gym. The Octazooka lowers our accuracy. The secondary effect of Octazooka lowering accuracy means that every single move has a chance to miss now. I've already been reduced down to almost half my health, but I do have a speed boost and a special attack boost. So I just pray that I can land every single move now. We see a Wormadam enter the arena, and I think about it for a second. This is probably a good opportunity to heal. Not knowing what the Wormadam could have, any Pokemon could be threatening, and this one specifically had Mega Horn, which was very threatening. So I decide to fire off a Flamethrower, and thankfully, since we don't miss, we're able to take out the Wormadam with a quite effective move. 4 Pokemon left. Then Ariados entered the arena, and I had never been so terrified of an Ariados in my life. Another bug type with another opportunity for more poison moves and more bug moves. I used my final max potion. We have none left, and it Thunder Waves. In the marathon up to the champion and including the champion battle, we had used pretty much every single healing item that we had. We had 1 Lava Cookie left. I decide to try and kill the Ariados so that it doesn't have the opportunity to Thunder Wave me again, and it lands a massive critical hit Draining Kiss, bringing me down to essentially no health. Ben Sharpedo was sitting on red health, paralyzed, and had very little way out. I wasn't able to attack that turn because of the paralysis, and with 1 final full restore, I know I need to use it. To cure the paralysis and bring us back up to full health, we now have no full restores. The Ariados goes for another Draining Kiss, dealing a massive amount of damage, and we fire back with a Flamethrower, thankfully not missing, but also not killing. It Thunder Waves one final time. I have 1 more Lava Cookie left, but with the amount of damage that this Ariados is doing right now, if I use the Lava Cookie this turn, it could kill me in 1 hit. Not knowing if Steven was going to heal his Ariados, I sat and thought. I thought for what felt like an age. Time passed. I wasn't even looking at the stream chat at this point. I was just thinking about how I could possibly get Ben Sharpedo out of this alive and decide that getting rid of the paralysis is the best move that we can make. Yes, we were hit with another Draining Kiss. Yes, we're in red health. And now we have an opportunity to outspeed and potentially one-shot the rest of his team. The Ariados goes down to one final flamethrower, and his third Pokemon is a Mega Absol. We hadn't seen a Mega Absol in this run so far, so we have no idea what its stat distribution was going to look like. The only healing item I had left of any use was a Lemonade, which only heals 80 points. However, 450 odd, it didn't really seem like it was going to do much. I decided that it was worth the chance. I feed Ben our final Lemonade, and it crunches Ben completely in half. Mega Absol's massive jaw encompasses Ben's tiny, tiny frame. Clamping down with its sharp, vicious teeth, it manages to rip Ben in half, ending the run. And there you have it. A champion in my heart, a champion maybe in your heart as well. Ben Sharpedo had made it so far. Ben Sharpedo had fought so valiantly to get to this point. Ben Sharpedo was a champion, but unfortunately, Ben Sharpedo was not a winner.